Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, say this is the morning podcast with Jacob and Ethan.
This is hell.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Breakfast is Hell podcast. My name is Jacob Urach, and this morning I've got with me, dude, I can't pronounce your name, so can you say it for me?
William Chee-Awai.
William Chee-Awai. William, who the fuck are you, and why are you in my apartment?
Well, so I am a musician from Sweden who lives in Berlin, and 2 weeks after I got my corona vaccine, I decided to go out on a busking tour. And then one day, 2 days ago, I arrived in Prague. Late at night, it was raining, and I was walking down the streets with all my gear, and I passed this venue that had music playing. It was a hostel, so I thought to myself, oh, I'll go in and check it out, see what it is. And on the outside, it was written Kinky Jam or something like that. So I wanted to see what it was. I go in there, I ask the lady behind the bar if there are any availabilities. She said that only for like 1,000 Czech koruna, which was too much for me.
Wait, she told you, oh, like to work. Okay.
No, to live, like a room.
Right. I thought you were asking her like to play, and she was going to try to like fleece you for 1,000 crowns.
No.
No.
To play was easy. I just went and signed my name
Okay.
up, and then that was after I had ordered myself a beer and gotten a seat, and then I thought, oh, okay, it's an open mic night, why not? So then I went up on stage, I played a few songs and said, hey guys, I'm a traveling musician. If anybody has a place to put me up for 1 or 2 nights, I would be eternally grateful. And Jacob here, he took me in.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to tell him, like, I did a walk across the South, so of course I'm gonna, I know what it is to be on the road and need a place to stay. But I mean, it was a great hustle, because it's a great idea. Go to a foreign town, just find an open mic, and then have that be part of your set. You know what I mean? Just like, I need a place to stay. Does anyone have a place? Because someone's gonna give you one. Like someone in that room, as long as it's decently full.
With a little bit of luck, yeah, for sure.
You think a little bit of luck? You don't
Yeah.
think it's a given?
You cannot take anything for granted.
Okay. Now I knew a guy. Whose brother hitchhiked across the country, and what he would do is he would go to bars and he would try to pick up women, and that is how he would find places to stay.
Yeah.
So he was exploring the country, and then he would go to a bar, and if he could pick somebody up, that would be his place for the night. And if not, he would just have to keep walking or something. I always thought that was pretty brilliant. But yeah, you were good, and I was at the open mic, run by Morpheus, run by Mad Art. Morpheus Spanos, I think is his last name. I don't know. But he's a producer in town, so it's a good scene. I like an open mic that feels like intimate, and that kind of has that, I don't know. Some open mics have this feeling of, I don't like dudes who just like are in their feelings playing their guitar, and that open mic has more of a feeling of like, let's make music, let's have a good time. Yeah. So what do you think of Prague?
Prague is I cannot really say much about it. I mean, it's an
Living here a
interesting
day.
city. I tried busking here. I mean, it's beautiful. It has nice architecture. It's very hilly. I did not expect that coming from Berlin. And then the busking scene is very strange, where every even hour you have to be on one side, and on the uneven hours you have to be on the other side. And until you've gotten a hang of it's very difficult to get into it. Like, you realize, like, holy shit, I am in like, now my set is over. Should I try to get to the other side, or should I try to stay on this side and take a 1 hour break? Because you do not know because if you try to run to the other side, you will only have like a half an hour, 30-minute set, so it will not really play in your favor necessarily. And if you stay, you will waste an hour of your day if you want to make money.
Yeah. Now, did you get any good places last night from them where you should go today, or they give you any suggestions? Morpheus and Anna and them.
What do you mean?
Like any new places to try? Did they have any?
No, I didn't
I
ask.
didn't ask.
I'm leaving town today, so I am no.
You're resigned to not making money.
Yeah, I don't like
Okay.
money is not the main point here for me. Like I've never really made money off busking. Like maybe a handful of euros and such, but because I play many originals, because my music fits better with a band, and now I'm traveling solo. I am not really expecting to make money. What I'm really on this tour to do, like doing on this tour, is I am tying the knots with new people, so that when I have a band back in Berlin, so then when I take them on the road, we have places to stay. I know that at least somebody from who I met here in Prague might show up to a gig we throw, and maybe even we'll play at this Bard hostel that where I had where the open mic night was. I asked bar lady Mackenzie about possibilities, and she said, "Yeah, sure. Like, let's keep in touch and communicate
Yeah.
about it."
No, that's wise. It's smart. It's kind of like with this podcast. Like I honestly, the biggest motivator for me, well, not the biggest motivator to start it, but the most practical reason to have it is I enjoy doing it. One, but I write, and it's going to be super hard once I have enough stuff for a book and I have enough publishing credits to try to get a book published. But if I can go and say, hey, I have this social media following, I have these people who listen to me talk about random stuff every few weeks, it's going to be a lot easier to sell my book. And it's kind of a debate that didn't really even turn into a debate that I think you were even there for on Tuesday when I was talking to Morpheus, because we were talking about how like there's always a business side to art, and as much as like you don't want to have to deal with it, and as much as it might make you feel a little dirty, like there is a business side, and if you are living without focusing on the business side, then you're just kind of lying to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Like you have to make connections, you have to have people, you have to eat, like you have to make enough to live.
For sure.
Yeah. So coming from Berlin, you have had very kind things to say about Berlin town since you've been here. And I say that with a lot of sarcasm.
It's an interesting city, very interesting. It's very big, which makes it, big in size. So,
Yeah.
and that really affects so many aspects of being a musician in the city. So the city has several different boroughs, and every borough has different busking rules. So busking is not easy there, and dragging your gear on the train and like not knowing how good it will go on the train ride anywhere would be like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So it is more of a hustle, much more of a hustle. Even though artists like Alice Phoebe made it there, everybody wants to be Alice Phoebe, but it's very, very few who make it past the street level if they busk.
Well, in that world too, it's like it doesn't matter what you do. If there's a lot of drinking and drugs involved, like it's hard to stay motivated, especially with the drinking. Like, how do I put this? Like, you got to put in the work, but like, I think you even said like Berlin is where young people go to retire. Like, there's almost too many good times to be had. You know, it makes it hard to like keep focused and keep. Yeah, am I wrong there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like I did like when it comes to like drinking and doing drugs, it is a very decadent city.
Yeah.
And to get any drug, you just go on Telegram and you. There are many groups where you can just say, okay, I want this, and then some guy will come and drive it and deliver it to your door. And it makes for a dynamic where you might be out one night, you might meet your band members or like people who are like, yeah, sure, let's do a project together, and then one day it doesn't work out. Like for instance, a very good friend of mine, she was gonna shoot her graduation video because she was studying at the Met Film Institute or something like that, and so she had found this dancer, right? And when on the day of shooting, she and her colleague met the dancer who was high on they did not know what. And this guy got a psychosis. He started screaming, and they had to put him into an ambulance and drive him away. And I met her later on, and she was visibly shaken by the whole ordeal. And the only thing she wanted to do was to film a dancer, and all of a sudden she is in a situation where she has to kind of get a person away, her dancer away in an ambulance.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't mean like drugs are necessarily bad, like in and of themselves. It's just, it feels like the culture of Berlin is like, well, it's Tuesday, I guess I'll drop some MDMA, and then it's like, I don't know that that's I couldn't work like that. I couldn't stay productive. I would wake up the next day and be like, oh, all right, I'll play tomorrow, and then every day becomes tomorrow, and then, you just never actually work. But you were saying the mood in Berlin has kind of changed in recent years. Like it's gotten kind of more cynical.
What I feel is like really after leaving Berlin, because I'm sensitive to other people's moods. There are many small things, like you have the gentrification, and people who want to live in really cheap apartments, they're getting driven out and further out of the city, and rent is rising. The people of Berlin try to create a rent cap, rent control more or less, but then the lobbyists for the landowners, they said, they went to the politicians, and the politicians said, no, this is unconstitutional. So then there was this big situation where, okay, so they put a rent cap, and the rent cap was for 1.5 years, and now after the rent cap was lifted, the people who lives in the apartments have to pay back the money that they would have had paid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So so after the rent cap is lifted, well, nobody has that kind of money. Like, people are living, people are spending. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's not good if you're living paycheck to paycheck. So there are all these like small little things where that makes the life more stressful. It's a big city, and then also it's a very high competition for finding apartments. So if you are living in a rental, a sublet and you have to move out in a month, it's a very stressful time. You cannot spend your time hanging out with your friends, even if you want to. So
yeah, Berlin's almost too cool for its own good. Too many people want to go there.
Yeah, now it's I think it's really gotten that way. But now after Corona started, everything that made the city fun kind of disappeared. So then you have all this, but the stresses did not disappear. So you still have the rent situation and issue that the city is big, and then also during the winters it's very gray. And now on top of that, you can't even go to a bar during the winter and have a beer because it's too because of Corona.
Yeah, yeah.
So the mood has been very negative. Many people in Berlin are pretty depressed, I think.
Oh, dude, I have made this point a number of times since I've been back to Prague. Mm-hmm. But I'm so glad I got out of Prague last winter, and I'm glad I got out of Europe last winter, because everybody is fucking depressed. They've all gone a little bit crazy. Everybody's wearing a little bit different clothes. Everybody's grown out a beard. Everybody seems a little bit more nervous. Like, it has taken a toll on everyone. It is.
For sure.
It's from when I was here last October to now July 2021. It's like you can definitely just see the effect. And I mean, I don't know why more people didn't get out. I guess I'm lucky in that I have a different country to go to. But it's like, I'd rather get sick and go to a bar and not lose my freaking mind than, I don't know. It was hard. It was hard, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And they can't do it again, right? They won't lock down again.
I think that what might happen is that they might limit it so that only people who are vaccinated or vaccinated plus testing. Because now, if you go to Berlin, all over the city, there is a map for it where you can get free quick testing. And so if you want to go into any shop or bar or restaurant, you are supposed to have a negative test, or you're supposed to be vaccinated.
Yeah. No, we didn't really do that in the States. So I guess in your opinion, did Europe do it right, or did the States do it right when it comes to COVID?
In this case, there is no right or wrong.
There's no right. Wrong. It's just all making the best of a bad.
I think that if you are in the seat of any politician in any country now, you have to make the decision may add restrictions and kill the economy, and also kill the morality, the morals of the people. But then also you will also keep the healthcare costs down, because in Berlin you get many people also who are like, oh, this is all crap, like this bullshit. They're too tough on us, and we don't need to make it this tough. But then when you talk to anybody who works in the healthcare, on the other hand, they will say that it's been really heavy for them because of the, like, there are people who still defy the curfew and still go to like small hangouts where there are many people inside, and like that's probably also an issue, that when you are indoors and instead of going to a bar, you just go to your friend's place, and so the virus still spreads. It's It has to be up to the individual in the end if the virus is going to spread or not, and that's, I think, the second wave, like second winter, was tough because of that, because people are very
Time to wake up.
time to wake up. My alarm just rang.
I feel so bad for you, dude, because I have woken you up, I think yesterday was 6 a.m. and today was 7 a.m., which is pretty fucking early for somebody who's been busking and hanging out with the nightlife, so. But these windows, it's like, if I shut them, this place gets hot as hell, because it's so small, and that fridge heats up this place. But then that freaking morning sun comes right in through those panes. It's savage.
It doesn't hurt to be an early riser, and in the end, beggars can't be choosers. Because
literally.
I'm crashing at your place, man. And, like, I have to go after your clock, and that's, if I wanted to go after my own clock, I could have simply just taken into a hostel. But I believe it's more personal also to crash with people, because you get a chance to know them, you know.
I can't believe they were gonna freaking charge you 1,000 crowns though for a room there.
Yeah, but it was
that's bullshit.
It was a room, and like a private room.
Oh, it was a private room. Okay.
Because the reason was the reason was that the dorms, they did not have any dorms because of Corona, so only private rooms were available.
Oh, I wonder if that's the case everywhere then.
Not necessarily. I think that I had made like a booking, like a reservation for a hostel where I was actually on my way when I stumbled into the open mic night, and there I had bunk bed in the cellar, and I thought, if I'm gonna be out late at night, it might be nice to be in like a dark, cavernous room so I can sleep until the middle of the day. But
honestly, my favorite part of hostels is when they got the breakfast buffet and you go pay like €5. Like, for me, I don't know it's so sad that that's the best part of staying at a hostel for me, but it's like I go out drinking, I'm used to cooking my own food, and then I go to a hostel and here's a fresh breakfast for like, I don't know, the price of a couple cups of coffee. It's beautiful for me. So there's actually one in Berlin I like because of that.
Which one?
Shit. Is it called Plus? Something to do with Plus? It's not that far from the street where all the clubs are. I'd have to look it up. But,
all right.
I've been there a couple times. Dude, the first time I went to Berlin, I had a fucking blast. Like, I went to a club and I danced till about 5 a.m., and I was very happy. But I don't really do like MDA or MDMA. So I kind of learned my second trip. It's like, if you want to go there and really hit it hard for a few days, like if you're just doing it on booze, you can't stay up. Like,
no, of course not. Berlin is not a city for being inebriated on alcohol, and that's what you notice. Like in other cities, when on a night out you see people really drunkenly stumbling down the street, but in Berlin, people do lots of drugs, but because they don't only drink a lot of alcohol, they do other drugs. They kind of keep themselves in control.
Yeah, I would say they're very wired. Like, they're very...
Yeah, lots of speed and cocaine and ketamine. Yeah. I think those are the big party drugs, and then, of course, ecstasy and MDMA.
Yeah, but I would say Prague's a beer town.
I see.
I was even talking to a Czech, because Czechs are so very reserved, I would say, in day-to-day life. And I think it kind of applies to everyone in Central Europe. And so I think when they drink is when they can start, for lack of a better term, acting like Americans. They can start being really silly. And so a lot of times I feel like all it takes is one beer for a Czech to start acting just really, really absurd, which is fun though. And it's kind of, it's how everyone stays free. Yeah.
And Sweden is a bit similar. I mean, the Swedes tend to be pretty reserved, and as soon as you get a few drinks into them,
drinking in Sweden, right? Am I wrong? It's quite a bit of drinking up there in the Nordic countries.
Like the drinking culture in Denmark is different from Sweden. Denmark, I think, is more like a lot of beer and you can drink like any day. But in Sweden, it's like there was a very strong anti-alcohol movement that almost got alcohol banned in a big
really?
vote. Yeah, it was almost they almost hit 50%. So there was lots of animosity against alcohol because people were drinking so much. So now, like the social norm in Sweden is Sunday to Thursday, you're not supposed to drink. If you just have one beer on one of those days, you're an alcoholic. But you can get as smashed as you want on Friday and Saturday, and that's completely okay. Like inebriated beyond your own senses, and nobody will bat an eye because that's what everybody does. But then if somebody comes along and says, you know what, let's hit a joint, then people will look at you as if you want to do heroin.
Really?
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's bad. Like the culture against like the culture is very much against any kind of drug, and they're not well read at all. So you get many people who many misinformed people. They're well meaning, but they're misinformed, and they just do they don't what do you say, they just don't like any other drug, and they think that everything that is illegal because the state says it's illegal, it must be bad. They don't think for themselves, and it creates a bad dynamic because now, for like, I don't know if it still is that way now, but for a while there, Sweden had the second highest drug-related death rate in all of Europe, and it's partly because you get like when somebody says like maybe we should exchange needles for our heroin junkies, there will be people who says we can't do that. Then we signal to the junkies that it's okay to use drugs, and like it's flawed. It's called harm reduction.
Right,
and,
right.
They have it in Sweden. It's called nollvision, like zero vision, and it's not. The vision is not zero deaths. It's zero people should use drugs, and it's just a utopia, and that's what also like. It's not a good dynamic for any drug there. I think it's not so healthy in that way. But
well, and I think it's like addiction's complicated, right? Because sure, there's like a physical addiction to things that happens. But like, tell me how many people that are addicted to drugs were having a very happy life before they got addicted to drugs. You know, like very few people got addicted to drugs when they were living their best life. And so there really is like another aspect to it. Like, for example,
sure.
I was hearing about this study that they, if you take mice in cages, right, and you give them the choice between heroin and food, and they're living in cages, like they're packed in cages, and they're like, their lives are bad, right?
Yeah.
And they're like living solitarily, they're like in a cage by themselves. They will eat so much heroin that they die eventually. But if you take mice, give them sun, give them air, give them other mice to play with, give them like a good life.
Yeah.
They'll still do a little bit of heroin, but they'll actually eat real food and live.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more complicated than just like, oh, this bad substance, da 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 da. But
I think it's called Rat Park. The big, there are many different studies, but the one where they realize that okay, if you give the rats other things to do, like you put them in the rat park, they will not do as much drugs, and that's completely you're right.
And I mean, I even know it for myself. Like when I'm happier, I notice I drink less when I go out. But if I'm like, even if I'm out with friends and I'm like kind of depressed about the day or something, I'll drink more. It's just natural. And then I also think it's like, then everybody thinks when, you know, everything illegal is equally bad, which like bath salts and meth are bad in a far different sense than, say, psychedelics or marijuana or anything. And people lose a sense of that. And so I think that's important too. But I don't know. It's weird. You know, America, we look at Europe and we're like, oh, they're so enlightened, da-da-da-da-da. But it is true that I don't, like, Europe is, you know, however many different countries. You can have one place which allows pretty much everything, and then another country where drinking on Tuesday is a sin, so... But I'm trying to think what I know much about Sweden, because I met some Swedes at Oktoberfest, and they were awesome. They were just all these rich dudes who whenever they wanted to travel, they just rented like insanely expensive foreign cars, and they would go to racetracks and just drive like 200 miles an hour, which I don't know what that is in kilometers.
Me neither.
And then I know Ingmar Bergman, who's fucking genius.
You met him?
No, I wish. That would have... He's dead now, isn't he? I think.
Sorry. Yeah, the director.
The director. The freaking... My, like, Persona is probably my favorite movie, so... Yeah. I'm sure he's, like, probably more admired than talked about in Sweden, but... Personally, I love him. So
yeah, I don't think I think I started the movie with the guy playing chess with death.
Yeah,
the Sista inseglet, I think the Swedish name is.
Yeah, we call it the seventh seal in English.
All right, yeah. That one is like the last one I saw. I tried watching it, but it was during the pandemic, and I couldn't focus on a screen, and then I was like.
And also that one I wouldn't say is like his most engaging, his most. No. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what a good starter film of his is. Wild Strawberries is like pretty cute.
Wild Strawberries.
Wild Strawberries. It's like cute. I don't know. Like it's like a very happy movie. So, but it's in black and white. But yeah, do you feel more connected to Sweden or do you feel more connected to Germany at this point?
Hard to tell. I mean, for me, I left. Sweden, like I didn't know why I left Sweden because I grew up in a multicultural household. My dad is from the Caribbean and my mom is from the north of Sweden, so I always had different cultures, and I also grew up with an American passport, so I never in my life thought to myself I will always live here. I always thought I'm gonna get my ass out of here. So then when I got to Berlin and had lived there for a year, I asked myself, why don't I want to go home? And then I realized that here, like not here, but in Berlin, I'm a foreigner, but in Sweden I was a foreigner, like a second generation immigrant too. Even though I look Swedish and I spoke perfect Swedish or speak perfect Swedish, I still felt this underlying feeling of being a second generation immigrant, even though like it's very subtle. But Swedes have a tendency to. Like, if somebody goes a bit against their culture, they will be a bit more wary. And if you are, like, there's a difference if you are a foreigner. If you come from another country, and then they know that you're a foreigner, so then they will, but when you are supposed to be a Swede, because you've grown up there, that's when you might, like, run into more people who feel like this country is racist. And the first generation, they're always cool. They're so happy. Oh, this place is so clean, or everything works so well. But when you grow up in a system and you're not completely Swedish, like I realized when I left Berlin that the majority of all my friends who in Sweden, not Berlin, when you leave Sweden, the majority of my friends were multicultural. Like there were people who had like a mixed background, and Sweden has been very tolerant and like been letting in people from different cultures, but Sweden still has a very, very strong culture that they don't brag about it, and that's the interesting thing. They say like they don't say we're the best. They just know we're the best. Like you see it because many of the Swedes who come to Berlin, they go back home because they realize like Sweden is the kind of if Sweden would be a parent, it would be the parent who cuts your food before you eat it. Berlin is the one who gives you the food and tells you to sharpen the knife yourself, when it comes to like, stuff like dealing with the bureaucracy. So what I noticed with the Swedes in Berlin was that I felt like a fish in water, but many of my Swedish friends, they really were like in foreign land, and like many of them can't really handle it.
Well, we have kind of the same thing, too, in Prague. Is a lot of Americans, quite a few Americans, maybe not a lot, but quite a few of Americans come to Prague, and I would say like 9 months, max 12 months is about how long they stay here, and I think a lot of them are expecting, I was even on a phone call with a guy who was trying to get advice about moving to Prague, and he's like, yeah, I think I'll work 20 hours a week, do private students, and then I'll travel whenever I feel like it. And it's like, dude, you're fucking delusional if you think you can do that. Like, you have to work, and then like the currency's not worth anything, so you can work and work and work, and then it's still not worth hardly anything in American dollars. So Yeah, I definitely know that kind of vibe of just like coming across people, but then like it's always a new batch.
Yeah, like I cannot back that up with any numbers, but for sure, like Berlin is one of the cities where you get many newcomers, and like the majority of the people you will meet will be people who have moved in. Even the Germans who are open to hanging out are the ones who haven't like yeah they come from like a small village outside Stuttgart or whatever. Like they but the Berliners, you rarely meet them. Only if you like date them, that's when you maybe meet the real Berliners. But they will never really introduce you to their friends. It is a bit of a bubble that they live in, because they live a different life. They've been in the city all their lives, and then they have their friends already. They don't have the same need to connect with new people as a newcomer would have.
Yeah, it's definitely it's my experience has been when you're in a foreign city, it's and coming as a native speaker, it's one other foreigners or two people who really want to learn English. But yeah, it's just
I would say there's another category, and it's the people who have lived abroad.
yeah, definitely.
Everybody who has lived abroad knows how it is to be a foreigner. You have the deck of cards stacked against you all the time. You don't know the bureaucracy. You do not know the standards or what you're supposed to do or what you're not supposed to do. So you will always run into these stumbling blocks. And if you've lived abroad, you have more understanding for the people who are like foreigners. But if you've never lived abroad, you will be tougher on them and you will be less forgiving.
Yeah, well, I mean, even, I've lived all over the States. I've traveled a bunch, but living in a different country, it's just a different beast. It's a whole different legal system. It's a whole different way of seeing the world. Like Czechs, they don't eat bread hot out of the oven. They think it's unhealthy. Like it's bad for your health, which is like the tastiest bread to me. But little things like that, it's that you kind of have to get used to. And
I did not know that.
yeah. They I think it's not just them. I think Hungary also believes this, probably other neighboring countries, but they believe if you eat bread hot out of the oven, it's unhealthy for you. What are some other fun Czech things? If you get a beer and you start drinking, like let's say you and your mates are getting around, and in the States it's like you get your beer, you start drinking. So maybe this is more a Europe thing, but if you are all getting around, you have to wait for everybody to get their beer and to cheers before you start drinking, or it's very rude. It's almost like an insult. Yeah. So
That's interesting.
and it's little things like that, because I think that like when you're from a country, say you are a Czech person, you don't realize that this is something that only your country does. And so like you kind of take it as a rule of the world, and then and I think probably the same applies for Berliners and people who are, natives, and they kind of they take the culture as the way all countries must work. And so they don't really understand that maybe you're just trying to figure out how things work there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've had a good time in Berlin. It sounds like overall positive.
Like I like the city. I dig the size of it, and there's a lot to do, and you can get lost in the city with whatever projects you want to do. And I have many friends there, and many people come and go, so you learn to socialize, and you see people from so many different cultures, and you realize that there are some people you get better along with than others, and this is also a thing, to make sense of stuff you might start categorizing people, and that's like also kind of a stepping stone to prejudice, where you say, okay, these people from this culture, they are this way, and the people from this culture are this way, and some people don't like hearing it, like because then you'll always hear somebody who says like, no, like not everybody is that way, but
Yeah, Europe's got a lot of everyone here's got a lot of stereotypes about people from other countries.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
it's how they make sense, I think, of because there's so much travel and concourse between the different nations. I feel like in order to make sense of it, it's almost like you have to. It's like so. Anyway, where can we find your stuff? Where
So you can find my music on Spotify and YouTube. That's
under
Chee-Awai.
just Chee-Awai?
Yeah, like
Alright.
if you search for the Chee-Awai project on YouTube, CHEE-AWAI,
Okay.
you can find you can go, you can find my YouTube, my songs on Spotify. And then the Chee-Awai project on YouTube, or William Chee-Awai on YouTube, that's my account. You can check out. I release a music video. I also have my own website that I made, cheeawai.com. And there you also find...
yeah. And I'll put links to stuff, too,
Yeah,
in the
perfect,
description.
perfect.
And I don't know, is there anything else you wanted to bring up or talk about or say that you were thinking of?
No, I think we've covered a lot, actually. I'm released a music video lately. That's also partly why I'm on the road, to make people aware of that I released a music video.
I'm always glad to have a guest who I feel like understands. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to be late for work, but no, I'm still good. I always appreciate a guest who has a sense of hustle. Like, I think we were both talking about how there's a lot of musicians who kind of lack ambition or are so self-conscious that they never like get out and work. And I think, yeah, I don't know that like you have to be like so ambitious that like I will kill my mother in order to sell 1 million records. Like, that's not good, of course. Don't kill your mother, folks. But it's like people lack ambition, and I think it's a good thing. Like, I think you're on a good path with this.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Ciao.
Ciao.